Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to look at how we can do more with a Ruby application, right? So a quick recap. Yesterday, we looked at arrays, which are collection types. We looked at how to create our own function, how to loop over each array and do something with the elements in the array. And elements are things that an array contains. It could be a bunch of numbers, strings, or whatever. So today what we're going to do is look at this orders.csv file and try to get make some analysis on this. Okay, so if you look at this, this is called a CSV, which stands for comma separated values. Okay, so if you look at this, this is a text file, which means it's just text, but it has a specific structure. The first line has something called a header, and you see that the values are separated by commas, right? So the first line is called the header row. So it says the first column is an ID, the second column is CreatedAt, which is the date when this order was created at. And it's not just the date, it also has the time. So this is called a timestamp. So it has the first order was created at 1st of March at 10 o'clock, whatever time zone this is in. And the total value, the subtotal of this first order is $100 or 100 units of currency, and then the tax is 8 units of currency. Let's just say dollars. And then the total is 108. And then the store ID is something. This is the store where this order was placed. And this is the state where that store is located at. So we want to do some analysis on this. Okay. So to do that, let's create a new file, and we'll call it order analysis. Okay. And it's going to be a Ruby file. So .rb. Now, we looked at, like in the previous example, we looked at cat and how we could read a file, and we have to do something similar here. And there are packages in Ruby, there are classes in Ruby which make reading a CSV file really easy, but let's not use that for our demonstration purposes. Okay, so we know, like from our previous example, that file.readLines allows us to read the file. So we'll use that. We'll say file.readLines, and we'll use orders.csv. And this is going to give us all the files, all the lines of the orders.csv. So we could take these and we could call them orders. And well, the first row is not gonna be an order though, right? But let's just keep looking at this. So let's say this guy comes to us and says, like the store manager comes to us and says, hey, I have these orders. I want you to tell me how much money I made for all of these orders. Okay. And if you look at this, it has subtotal. So let's just say he just wants to know, let's say how much tax he collected for all these orders, which he needs to pay to the government. Okay, so fair, like simple enough ask, right? So we just take the tax column and add it all, right? So 8 plus 16 plus all those rows, and we give this guy the total. Okay. All right. So now think about this. If you were using a pen and paper, how would you do this? You can pause the video here and just imagine how you would do it. You would just, look at each number and add it and like just create a list of all these numbers and just add them. Right? And that gives you the total tax, right? But you would only do it for the tax column, which is this, Now, this is a text file. So for each line, we need to get the tags column, right? So we can, like, let's think about this. Every line is just some text, but we're saying it's a comma separated value file, CSV, which means each column is separated by a comma, right? So we have one comma, something comma, another thing comma, and so on, right? And so the first column is ID, second is the timestamp, third is the subtotal, fourth is the tags. And we want the fourth column, right? So one way you can do this is you can take a line, because we're getting one line at a time, and then split it wherever you see a comma. And when you split a line, what are you going to get? What kind of data type do you think you're going to get? Just think about that for a second. You're going to get an array, okay? And we'll do a quick test here, okay? So Ruby also has a really neat thing called IRB, which is the interactive Ruby console, where you can do like various addition, like various like code executions. So here we'll just say hello there, right? And we said X is a string, right? So if you look at x.class, it says string, right? So IRB just, it's called a REPL, okay? Read, evaluate, print, loop. So you just give it code, it will evaluate it, tell you what it is, and then it will keep asking you for more code to run, okay? Now, X is a string, and strings have a function on them, which is actually called a method called split. And split can split something on some character. So if we say x.split on comma, then how many strings do you think we're going to get? So if you split at the comma, you're going to get two. The one before like the one before the comma, hello, and then the space there, right? And that's what you get. And since you're getting multiple elements, this data type is always going to be an array. And you see we have a hello comma, which is actually the separator for elements in the array, space there, right? You could, like, you don't have to split on comma, you could split on E. And if you split on E, all the E's are gone from the result, but you get H, and then there's an E, that's where we split. LLO comma TH, and then there's an E where we split R, and then at the end there's another E where we split, but there's nothing after that, right? So here we want to split on the comma, right? So we say, let's loop over these lines, right? So we'll say orders.each, and then we can just print them. And let's just run this, and we see that it's printing all the orders. But what I want to do is I want to do columns equals to orders.split comma, right? And I want to print columns. So if I run that, we get lots of stuff, but let's do inspect. That's easier to read. So we do inspect, and now we have multiple arrays, right? Where the first line has been split into headers, and then the next line, and so on and on and on, right? And then we want to get the fourth column, okay? Now, arrays in Ruby, if you have, let's say, an array called A, which has 1, 2, 3, we've seen that arrays have a method called each on them, which allows you to loop over them. And we also saw on argv.first, you can look at the first element of the array. You can look at the last element of the array using first and last. If you wanted to get, let's say, the second element, you would say A1. That would give you the second element. Now this might be confusing if you're new to programming, but in programming, the array indexes start with 0. Most programming languages, the array indexes start with 0. So the first element is A0, the second is A1, the third is A2. Okay? Now, why are we talking about this? Because columns is an array and we want to look at the fourth column. So to look at the fourth column, you would say column, I want to get the index 3 column, which is the fourth column, right? So let's just print that and see what we get, right? So if we print that, you see we get tax and 8, 16, blah, blah, blah. Now we just have to add all that, okay? So let's just say we initialize a variable here called total and we set it to 0, okay? Because we want to get a running total, and we start with 0, and then we say we make total equals to total plus this. So what we're doing is, for the first row, we're going there, and then we're saying total was 0, but add 8 to it. And then we're going to the second row, and we're saying add 16 to it, and then we're adding 12 to it. So if you keep doing this properly, at the end, we should get the total tax correctly, right? So at the end here, we should have the total. So we can just print the total, right? We can say the total tax is, and then print the total, right? So that should work. Now let's see. Now this guy says plus string cannot be coerced into string, okay? String cannot be coerced into integer. So this is a bug in the code, and it says that it's happening on line number 8, which is this guy, right, where we're trying to do the addition, okay? So I know what the problem is, and like this might be hard to understand initially, but what we're doing is we're doing 0, and we said that order.split gives you an array of strings, right? So when you look at columns 3, the type of this would also be a string, okay? Now let's just comment this out. And we'll say puts columns 3 dot class, right? Because we want to look at what the type of the actual value, the element in that array is, right? So for every element, the type of that calls 3 as a string, because we split a string, we're going to get a bunch of strings. Even though it's a number, 24, 30, it's a string because it's, like if you had inputted it on a program like this is a string, right? Whereas this is a number in the code, right? So similarly, we have a string here, okay? If you don't understand that right now, that's still okay. You'll get a more sense of this as we keep moving. Now, let's. So we are trying to add a string to an integer, and that doesn't work. Okay, so that doesn't work in programming. So that's why it's saying I'm trying to add a string to an integer, but I can't do that, okay? So one thing we can do is maybe make this a string, right? Because then you can add a string to a string, maybe. So let's see. If we do that, let's see what we get. We'll just run this, clear this, run it. And then it says the total taxes, which is good, it's getting to that point. And then it says 0, tax 8, 16, point 12, point blah, blah, blah. So it looks like it just kept appending these strings. That's what happens if you add strings. You take one string, add another string, and so on and on and on. You just get a really large string, which is just a collection of all those strings. But we don't want that. We want to add these as numbers, okay? And we also don't want to do tax, right? Because that's not a number, right? So what we'll do here is we'll look at another thing, okay? Which is the conditional, okay? based on a condition, we want to do something. Okay, so that's called the if block. Okay, so this is called a conditional expression. So here we're saying if columns 3 is equal to tax, is we don't want to add it. So we can say if it is not equal to tax, only in that case add my stuff together. So what we're saying is, we're saying execute the line number 9 only if columns 3 is not equal to tax. So that's how you say it in programming. Okay. If it is equal to tax, it will not go and execute this line. Okay, that's called a conditional, because it's executing based on a condition. Now it says 0, 8.0, 16.0, so on. So this is better, but still, it's just a collection of all the string. Now what we also want to do is we want to take this string and we want to convert it into an integer. Okay, because let's just say all these taxes are integers. So .toI is a method on a string which will take a string and convert it into an integer. And once it's an integer, we can add it to our total, right? Now, if you run this, we see the same error, because now this 0 is a string, right? So let's get rid of that double quote there, make it a number. Now it says 260. Okay, so now we're able to compute the tax. We're able to compute the tax for all of these orders, and let's just change this to total tax. We can also compute the total order value is 0, and we can say this is the total tax, and which column is the total dollar value? It's the 5th column, right? So we can also say total order value is total order value plus columns 4, which is the 5th column. Okay, and we're going to add it, right? So here we're saying the total tax is total tax, and the total value is total order value, right? Now if you run this, we'll see it says 260 is the total tax, and the total dollar value of all our orders is 3,510. So this is great. Now we're able to use code to do computations, like to do some work. So this is great. Okay, now as an exercise for you guys, I'm gonna paste this orders.csv in the video. I want you to find totals by state, like how much money did New York get, and did Texas get, and did Florida get, and so on. Okay, maybe you can provide that as an argument on the command line. Okay, you can say order analysis California, and it will tell you the subtotals for all the orders in California, the count of the orders of California, the total value of California, and the number of orders, all those statistics. Okay, so that's an exercise for you guys. If you have any questions, ask me in the video.